Can you tell me if you can see the slides? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone who joined today. This is a live webinar to give you a brief understanding of the space economy. My name is Lucía Fonseca de la Bella. I am a lecturer at the Space Economy Academy and also founder and director of Cosmic Bridge. Please, at any point during the webinar, feel free to shout out and just, well, let me know if you have a question. I won't be able to see you as I'm sharing my screen, but please just feel free to just ask any question. All right, brilliant. Let's start. So we're gonna be looking at space and space economy from a very business lens, not so much about the engineering, and that's the value of this webinar. We're going to be looking at technology businesses, but also opportunities. And the very first thing I want you to do is just to pause a little bit and think of what comes to mind when you hear the word space. Feel free to just say it or put your comments in the chat as you wish. Just to give you an idea, when we say space, the first things that comes to mind is typically astronauts, it's rocket launches, is space exploration, is moon and Mars and the Artemis missions and deep space and satellites, right? And the big agencies like NASA or the European Space Agency. And this is space, and it's one of the most inspiring aspects of space, but it's not everything. For a very long time, it's true, since the space race in the 60s, everything was coordinated by bigger space agencies and public investment and organizations, and it was like very big missions, and if you were just a single person or a very small company, it was very difficult for you to do space. But nowadays, that has changed completely. Today, space drives business, and business impacts Earth, right? So there's space technology nowadays. Basically, what it's doing is enabling solutions to some of the world's biggest challenges, and is creating value across every single industry here on Earth. Right, and there are different aspects that we're going to see in a minute, that is made accessing space so easy for everyone, that is just booming. The space economy is booming. There is lots of opportunities. But in this case, when we are talking about how space is bringing value and bringing solutions here on Earth, we're thinking about real world applications, and this is from agriculture, healthcare, the logistic and transport sectors, finance as well, defense and security. This is a big one that is actually bringing a lot of support and growing momentum from very different nations, because of obviously the geopolitical tensions in the world at the moment. And then we have the maritime sector, which is benefiting from space largely, and then the environment, energy, we have aviation, we have media and telecommunications. Because think about, for example, agriculture. You can do crop monitoring, you can do precision farming and saving resources and yield optimization. In healthcare, you can track diseases. You can also be there for disaster response much faster and save life. Logistic and transport, this is a very typical one for fleet tracking and route optimization, supply chain visibility. Finance is one sector that not many think about when we talk about space, but space is absolutely integrated in the finance sector for risk modeling, for asset monitoring, and also for fraud prevention as well. Defense and security, for obvious reasons, for surveillance, situational awareness, threat detection as well. maritime with the vessel monitoring and maritime safety and pollution detection. We're going to see a couple of examples around the maritime applications as well. The environment for climate monitoring, biodiversity tracking, carbon management, which is obviously very important nowadays, and energy for the infrastructure systems, right? For grid management, for resource mapping, and for the infrastructure monitoring. Aviation for flight tracking. There's so many applications, and space is everywhere and is invisible, which is a very good thing because space is not just a sector, it's an infrastructure layer that is embedded in every sector and providing solutions and creating value here on Earth. And what's the business opportunity when you are integrating space technologies in your businesses? Well, you have space data and services that create new products and new business models. And obviously they drive efficiency, reduce risk, and unlock new insights. They can generate real impact and with measurable returns on investment, and open up global markets and long-term growth, because space is not just about exploration. It's basically a business multiplier and is helping bringing solutions to traditional sectors where obviously there was a gap in the market and in solutions and problems that they want to be solved. Why now? And that is one of the biggest questions, because the space economy is actually entering a new era of commercial growth. And obviously in the courses in the Space Economy Academy, we go into details of why now, why space is so important and why it matters now. But just to give you an overview, basically, space economy is booming and is just huge. It's projected to grow so rapidly and to reach the $1 trillion economy by 2040. And that's just massive. You can see here the different diagrams. Because space is actually becoming a new frontier for innovation, driven by new technologies that we're not gonna I'm gonna give you just a taste of those technologies today. And also the private sector, as I was saying before it was like just big agencies and public investment, but now there is this public and private partnerships that is just revolutionizing the way that we are doing economy here on Earth. And I just invite you to do the courses if you are interested in knowing more, because it's absolutely fascinating. There are different key growth drivers of why this is happening now. And well, it starts with the miniaturization and cost reductions of the space assets and the satellites. This happened like in the 40, 50 years ago, where the industry moved from creating very big satellites to creating increasingly smaller satellites to reduce the risk. And that revolutionized the sector and the industry. That's what's called the new space era as well. So commercialization of space was possible because of that, and the democratization of access into space. And then the satellite convergence, right? So there is the integration of Internet of Things, IoT, Earth observation technology, communication technologies. We'll see some of these later today. And then this is sector-specific opportunities, because as I was showing you before in the previous slide, you have applications to every single sector that you can imagine. So why you as an entrepreneur should act now? Obviously, because there are new business models that are emerging, and early adopters, well, they can gain a competitive edge. That is one of the reasons. Space technology solutions are increasingly affordable and scalable as well. And then this strategic partnership with space agencies and tech startups can unlock absolutely unique opportunities. And well, also this is accompanied by lower launch costs, because the launching industry is producing reusable launch systems, so it's making space more accessible and with lower costs as well. And then we have all those space-enabled services with data and connectivity that are actually driving value across industries. And here we have a diagram by Morgan Stanley Research telling you what is the distribution of services that is projected to be in the global space economy by 2040, by when we're going to have the $1 trillion industry. And most of it is going to be internet. It's going to be ground equipment and applications for government like security, defense, consumer TV, broadband is some of the major sectors, but it's not going to be the only applications by then. And I just wanted to mention as well security and sovereignty, because governments are investing heavily in resilient space capabilities, geopolitical tensions, and obviously government security services that need to be sovereign as well is very important. So it's just not another growing industry. Space is actually becoming like this critical infrastructure for the global economy, for everything. This is just the context. So who is this webinar for? And I'd like to hear from you in which category you are. If you're an entrepreneur that are building startups and looking for new ventures in the space sector, this webinar is also for executives that are leading strategy and growth in organizations. Investors as well, that if you're identifying opportunities and investing in the future of space, this is for you. Innovation managers, of course, driving innovation and new solutions, and engineers looking to transition into space, because in many cases, engineers for other sectors, they already have the skills that could be applied in the space sector. But to tell you the truth, you don't need to have a space background. You just need to have the right framework. And I do believe with the Space Economy Academy courses, we provide you with basically the very solid foundations for preparing you for this venture. And just a little bit about myself to finish with the context. Well, I'm Lucía. I am a lecturer at the Space Economy Academy. I'm also the founder and director of Cosmic Bridge, which is a space consultancy bridging the UK and Spain space ecosystems. And I help organizations and entrepreneurs turn space opportunities into real world impact. I've had experience working as a European Space Agency ambassador for the Business Applications Program. I've worked for ESA in different missions at the universities as well, and my background is in theoretical physics. That was just giving you a context. I was just giving you this scene, but I want to change your mind. And I'd like you to flip the mindset of what I showed you at the beginning. When we think about space, we think about rockets and astronauts, to actually what's the reality of space. And that's why I want to start from this slide with the content of this webinar, because I want you to understand that space isn't a product and it's not just a sector. The important thing is the value that we create here on Earth, right? Because the real impact happens when space data and the space technology actually solve real world challenges. And how we create value on Earth with space. Obviously, an important aspect of space industry is the value chain. And in the courses, obviously, we deep dive into this concept and give you all the tools to understand the value chain and how it works in the space. But you can think of, okay, we have launchers, which are rockets and launcher payloads into space. We also have the space infrastructure orbiting Earth, the satellites and the spacecraft that are operating in orbit to enable the data collection and the connectivity. You also have data and connectivity with the downlinks and how that's transmitted and processed to actually generate the meaningful information. And then the applications, which for me is the most interesting part, right? Because that data needs to be useful, and data becomes applications and platforms that actually solve problems and create insights. And then you have impact on Earth, solving problems on Earth, solutions that deliver measurable value to people, businesses, and the planet. And space is very inspiring, but talking about space economy can also be sometimes a little bit dry. So that's why in the courses and here today in the webinar, I like to introduce you with real examples, right? For example, when we're talking about value chain and how space technology creates value in the real world, I'm giving you here an example of a flooding situation or flooding management risk management, sorry. So for that, we're looking at Earth observation, and that's just Earth observation is just a fancy word for saying I'm taking pictures from space of Earth, of the surface of Earth, with different sensors and different cameras. And I'm going to give you here the value chain of how space data using Earth observation technology can deliver impact and can give you a solution for a real problem, which is flood. We have these arrows here. We start with a satellite, for example, Sentinel-1, Copernicus. Then that satellite creates data that needs to go to an Earth observation data provider, for example, the European Space Agency, DIAS, and that goes to an analytics company. What it does is just analyzing that data so it can create insights, right? And it could be used, so usable data. That goes to a sector company service platform, for example, the civil protection platform, and that goes to the end user, right? Which is might be the emergency teams rescuing citizens from a flood. So the actors in this case, we have the users, we have the customers, and we have the payer. And that's something that go into details in the courses, and is not always the same organization paying or using or being your customers or using that data or that technology. In this case, for a flooding situation, the end user could be the civil protection teams or the emergency teams or the local authorities, whereas the customer can be the national civil protection agencies or the disaster management authority or the ministry or the regional government, whereas the payer could be someone very different, national government, European Commission's programs, or an insurance company, right? And if you are thinking about creating a space business, this is something that you need to be very clear about, because it's not going to be the same your end user, and it's not going to be the same person who's going to pay for your service. And well, in Space Economy Academy, we help you understand that difference. And another thing that we talk about is how value and money really flows, right? Because we have the satellite detecting the flooded areas in near real time, and then the analytics company that extracts a flood extent and impact maps. And then you have the national platforms that integrate those results into the emergency systems, and then the civil protection teams that use the maps to make decisions, and then the government or the EU programs that pays for the service, and then the citizens that receive the help that are saved, but they never pay directly. I just want you to have that in mind when you think about creating a business in space. And please ask any questions at any point. I'm very happy to stop at any point and just answer any of your questions. Because now I just want to give you an overview of what technologies are important, what technologies are behind the space economy. Because there is a new generation of technologies that are emerging and it's changing very rapidly, and that's why the space sector is so dynamic and so fast paced, because these new technologies are enabling space to solve real world problems and create massive economic opportunities. And those technologies could be launch capabilities. It could be Earth observation, as I was saying, taking images of Earth, navigation, telecommunications. It could be robotics, AI and data analytics as well, in-orbit services. But why these technologies are important for the space economy? For launchers, that is very clear. You need to put something in orbit, right? It provides us access to space. And also there's increasingly lower costs and higher frequencies that are opening new opportunities. You have Earth observation that turns that satellite data into actionable insights for better decisions across industry or saving lives, like in the case of the flood that we were just discussing. Navigation, because it enables precise positioning and timing for that's the foundation of modern economies, and you use it every day, even if you don't realize it. Communications, we all want to be connected at all times, everywhere in the world, and that's basically bridging the digital divide and enabling global operations. Robotics is also a very important technology because it helps automate complex tasks in extreme environments like space, and obviously it improves efficiency in space and on Earth as well. AI and data analytics, this is very useful because satellites are generating vast amounts of data that need to be processed, that need to be analyzed. And that's what AI and these data analytic tools are allowing us to turn data into intelligence and driving the automation and better outcomes. And in orbit services, to extend the life, the performance, and the value of the space assets, because we are putting way too many satellites in orbit, and it's becoming nearly unsustainable. So we need to be very careful about how we service our in-orbit assets. This is just an idea of the space technologies that are nowadays driving the space economy. But the important thing is to understand how space creates business value. And it starts with technology. Obviously, the space technologies are making businesses possible. And it goes through capability, delivering unique capabilities from space. And that can be commercialized. You can transform that into a commercial product. And obviously, those solutions and those capabilities can be sold and they can generate revenue, and then you have an impact which is not just for businesses or creating revenue or the economy itself, but it's creating value for people on Earth and the planet, which for me is the most important thing, right? Space is the enabler. Business value happens on Earth. And again, just to give you an idea of real world examples, and in the courses you'll have more examples and use cases that you can follow. For example, this is a Spanish company which is Fossa Systems, which is whose business model is just based on IoT, Internet of Things, logistics applications, but powered by space. And Fossa Systems, they have different applications, but one of the most important ones that they do is maritime merchandise transport monitoring. And they help with location monitoring, they help with temperature and humidity monitoring. But the thing, when you're creating a space business, it's very important to start with the problem that you want to solve. Not so much about the technology. The technology will come later in the development of your business. But what's the problem? And for them, for Fossa System, the problem was that goods are transported by sea, and obviously often they travel outside terrestrial network coverage for very long periods of time. And that makes it difficult to track the real position of the cargo, to monitor environmental conditions inside the containers, and to detect issues early, like spoiling, damage, and delays that can affect the industry and the company that is shipping those goods as well. So how satellite IoT helps, how space brings value to this problem, how is it solving the problem? So what they do, very clever, they install these low power IoT sensors within the containers, and that is helping them, well, generating some data. And when I say data, is okay, location, is temperature, is humidity, and those data points are transmitted via satellite to ground systems and cloud platforms, and even when vessels are far from shore. And that is solving the problem that this industry is having. The value that is being created is that you're having continuous visibility of your cargo conditions during maritime transport. You have early alerts when temperature or humidity or any conditions, the threshold are exceeded, so you can act early and prevent and reduce risk and reduce spoilage, reduce insurance claims, and also operational risk, and have an improved compliance and traceability across the supply chain. But the key insight I want you to take from this example is that the value comes from those periodic condition monitoring and alerts, and only using an integrated space technology can make this happen. That is the value of using and integrating space technology in cargo shipping industry. Another example, real example, very important as well for the environment and to reduce huge expenses from companies, is Orbital Earth Observation Solutions, EOS. They are turning satellite data into faster decisions. They are not building satellites, they are using data. And what they are doing is supporting the automatic detection of oil spills. So when they decided to create this company, they thought of, okay, what's the challenge? What is the problem here on Earth that no one with traditional technology is able to solve? All right, we have oil spills that are very difficult to detect very quickly, and they are very damaging to the environment. And cleaning oil spills is just a very huge endeavor and hugely costly. It's just a huge amount of money that you need to spend, and a lot of time and resources and people that you need to transport from well, your headquarters to the place of wherever the oil spill is happening. So there's a lot of logistics behind cleaning an oil spill. So what they thought is, okay, what we're going to do is to integrate Earth observation technology and artificial intelligence. So we're going to have images from satellites, and we're going to analyze those images automatically to detect oil spills, and do it very quickly, and to communicate with the authorities, the local authorities, or whomever is responsible for that event. And that team, that emergency team, can make decisions real quick. So what's the business value here? Faster response, lower environmental damage, lower cleanup costs. I'm telling you that is really expensive, and better regulatory compliance. And what's the impact? Protecting our oceans, reducing costs, enabling faster, smarter decisions. And that is the value that space is bringing to the oil industry. And this is just another example, very quick. You use it, I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to say every day, but very often, continuously. Just in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say with these examples, and again, in the course, you have more examples and more applications, and you could understand much more how space is bringing and creating value here on Earth. But basically, space enables better solutions, faster solutions, smarter solutions. Because the space-based value proposition is about solving problems better. So space is valuable when basically enables something that previously was impossible or delivers a clear advantage over non-space alternatives. If that's not happening, well, maybe you are having a very interesting idea with a very fancy new technology from space, but it's actually not creating any difference or not bringing any value. Because users don't buy space technology. What they do is they buy better solutions. Uber, in this case, they don't sell maps or satellites. What they do is they sell convenient mobility. They thought about the problem. People need reliable, on-demand urban mobility without owning a car and knowing where the taxi cab is located at all times, and the ETA. The solution that they imagined was a digital platform that matches drivers and passengers in real time. And then where space adds value here? Well, we have GNSS, which is navigations, enabling accurate location of drivers and passengers. So a driver could know where the passenger is and pick it up. And well, the passenger can see where the driver is coming and how long I need to prepare my stuff, go downstairs and be ready for my taxi. It enables routing, ETA calculation, and dynamic pricing, and obviously that service could scale across cities and globally. And the result is shorter wait times, optimized routes, and global scalability. So you can understand the value of space. Space is just invisible. You don't care that your mobile phone is using space. You just care about your solution being solved. So where are the opportunities? Everywhere. In every sector that you can imagine, you can use space technology. And we saw that at the beginning when I was just setting the scene and giving you the context. You can think about climate industry, defense and security, logistics, energy, insurance companies, and finance. These two are very interesting because people, when they think about space, is not the first industry that they think about, but it's actually very, very benefiting from space technology. Maritime, like the examples I just gave you, and agriculture as well. Every sector, but also education, media, so many, so many. You think of one and space is there. And now is the interesting part, how to build a space business. And this is where we are experts in guiding you and supporting you along this journey. Because going from idea to impact, yes, it is a journey. And there are so many questions that each and every single entrepreneur should ask before deciding on launching a space business. And it all starts from, okay, is there a market? Is there a real problem? Is it urgent? Is large enough, right? Because if there is no problem, well, you're not going to be building a solution for anything or a service. No one is going to buy it. And who are the customers? Who has the problem and who will pay? Because in this case, sometimes it's not the same organization. And you need to understand the market segmentation and all that. And then what's the value proposition? How does space create a better outcome? Because if it does not create a better outcome, better, faster, smarter, well, you're just using fancy technology and probably it's going to be more expensive than someone using traditional technology. And well, they're going to have the edge of the competition in the market. And then you think about, okay, check, 1, 2, 3, and then what funding exists? And I tell you, there is loads. And in Europe, in particular, the European Space Agency, the USPA, so many, they are providing with grants, public programs, venture capital as well from private investment. There's so many, and also at national level, depending on your country of origin, there's so many opportunities. And then okay, you're very clear about that. And then very important in space sector and in space industries, how do I validate the idea? Just not go full in. Just start with the minimum value proposition and test your assumptions and reduce the risk early. That's very important. And there are also a lot of support at different organizations providing support at this stage for the idea validation stage. And then understand what makes investors interested. What do investors look for in a space startup? So you go through this journey from idea, validation, building, launching your company, scaling, and having an impact. And if you do the space economy courses, we can help you hold hand in hand, and we can help you with this idea and with the creation of the business plan for you to be ready to pitch for different investors. So it's a very, very interesting program. I also tell you in these courses about the biggest mistakes that space entrepreneurs do and how to avoid them, because we need to build smarter. There are my top five favorite mistakes are thinking that space is only for engineers, starting with technology and not problem, not understanding the ecosystem, ignoring regulation, and not having a commercial validation. For me, those are the top five. Because yes, space is not only for engineers. We just saw in the previous slides, and every day in every space event that I go and I attend and I participate, every person I speak with is coming from a very different background. They are not mainly engineers. They can be project managers. They can be finance people. They can be lawyers as well, because space creates value for every industry. And it's just a business enabler, not just a technical toy. Start with technology instead of the problem. That is a mistake, because you're just solving a problem. The technology comes after understanding the problem and understanding how you can solve that problem. And it might be the case that space is not the solution. Fair enough. But just to be very clear, you can have a very fancy set or piece of technology that you're going to launch to space, but if it's not solving anyone's problem, well, you just have a fancy gadget. And not understanding the ecosystem, this is crucial, because space is very collaborative. Yes, there are so many competitors emerging every day, but we do it together. No company succeeds alone, and partnerships are very important. And this is something that we focus very much, mainly in the executive program. Then ignoring regulation as well. Well, space, you need to be very clear about regulations, about standardizations, because that impacts timeline, that impacts costs and market access. Know it early. And we also provide you with courses like the ECSS standards that are very useful to understand this regulation and these standardization issues. And again, no commercial validation. Assumptions are not a strategy. They might be a starting point, but you need to validate early with real customers. So those are my top five biggest mistakes. And now, just to give you an overview, this is just an example, because obviously we are very much European focused, but this could be applicable to any part of the world. The European space ecosystem provides you with a very clear pathway from idea to impact. And you have the European Space Agency setting the vision and while providing with a lot of opportunities for commercialization of space. You also have national agencies, so keep a lookout because most of them, they are also supporting very heavily in growing the investment for space startups. You have incubators like the ESA Business Incubator Program to support startups from idea to launch, and in particular the executive program that we have, Space Economy Academy, we get you ready for this particular program, for the ISABIC. It could be applicable for the investment programs, but this one in particular. Funding, have a look at the funding. There are lots of public programs and grants, investors in the private sector as well, accelerating the growth and providing capital, and obviously industry, building solutions to create real impact. And this is not just like a linear a model. You could iterate from one to the other. So you need to understand very clearly the space ecosystem, because we work together. Right, so how do we go from opportunity to business? And obviously, every successful space venture follows a journey, and you as entrepreneurs or innovator managers or whatever your role is, obviously you are in different step of this journey. You could be thinking about the opportunity. You could be thinking about, okay, I'm thinking about this problem and how to use space technology to solve this problem. The third step or third stage would be to think about the market and the market segmentation, and who could be my customers, and who will pay, and who will be the end users. And with those bubbling ideas, you can start thinking about the business model and creating the business plan, and then looking ahead for investment and growth. And depending of where you are, well, in Space Economy Academy, we have, for example, starting from space technology for entrepreneurs, for you to understand the technology, not from the engineer point of view, but from the business lens. I need to understand enough of the technology to make the right decisions for my business. Or if you're already ready to build your business, well, I invite you to have a look at the executive program in space economy. It's one of my favorite ones. In this course, in this program, what we do is we help you go from the idea to the business case. So you have space economy experts and finance experts. You have space economy modules and finance modules, the live sessions, which are the most interesting part of the program. And then you end up with a business plan and your business case. So you have self-paced online foundations to build your knowledge of the space economy. And then the live online project work and workshops, that's where we sit down with you and we listen to your ideas, we listen to your ambitions, and we help you shape that into a business plan. And you also have individual tutoring and project monitoring. And that's what is going to enable you to write a very strong business plan that you can, it's just ready for investors, right? It's just ready for you to go and pitch and start the journey of your enterprise, of your business, space business. So keep growing, keep building, and keep shaping the future. You can just browse and scan this QR code to explore all the courses that we offer as Space Economy Academy. Here is just a taste. Space Economy Academy, there is a world-class online programs that are designed for professionals, for entrepreneurs, and also organizations like the executive program in space economy, the space technology for entrepreneurs, ECSS standards and sustainability, so many other programs for professionals, and this is very much industry focused training. And yeah, if you like to have a look, you can do it through Cosmic Bridge, because Space Economy Academy and Cosmic Bridge are collaborative partners, and you can have a very special discount. And also you can have time with me, and I'm very happy to have a chat with you before you embark on this journey. And I can listen to your ambitions and your goals, so I can guide you to choose the right program for you. So just if you have any questions or anything, I'm very happy to chat anytime. So yeah, very happy to answer your questions now. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Eleftherios, please, go ahead.
Greetings from me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hello, Eleftherios. How are you? Good to see you
I'm
here.
great. I'm great. I'm very, very grateful for your presentation.
No worries.
What I would like to ask is it possible to have any the material that we were shown the slides, because some
webinar.
key presentations were very informative, but I didn't have the time to catch all the details.
Yeah, did you mean for the webinar, the live webinar? Adrian, what do you think?
Yes, I am also recording the webinar, and I will put in the platform, and I will give you access.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if this is okay. Also, for me, it's not a problem if you want to share the slide, Lucia.
No,
Yes,
I don't have
to
any
you.
problem with that. Yeah, not at all.
Yes, we can share the slides also.
No problem at all.
That would be amazing. Email. Yeah.
Andreu.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hello again. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes. How are you, Andreu?
Good. Didn't come to the Congress, but I hope it went well for you.
Oh, yes. It was amazing. It was really intense, I have to say. It was
yeah,
really
I imagine. No, my question was, well, for sure at some point I will reach out again, because I have ideas, but I've never committed to any of them. So I've never advanced in any of them like to a serious level. Yeah. But my question was more of when is the best moment to take the leap and make start building a company or a solution for any problem. Because for me, for example, I'm doing I'm going to start my master's in September.
Yeah.
And then my reasoning was, okay, maybe after I graduate, I get some experience in the industry. I work for a couple of years, 5 years, 6, whatever. And then with that experience, I go back and make my own company. So what's your view on that, or your advice?
That is a very good question, Andreu. And I have to say several things. I was actually in a venture workshop last week as well, before going to Barcelona for the space event, and that was something that came out during the workshop. And it actually depends on basically, obviously, your circumstances, but the general idea was that if you want to build something, just go for it. And there are examples where, yes, people are doing masters alongside launching their own businesses, and that's completely fine. Depending on how you manage your time as well. You don't need to have industry experience, because sometimes if you go to industry, you start working for someone else, you just become comfortable, and maybe you don't decide never to just do that, to jump and to just go ahead with your idea. For me, I have to say it took me very long. It took me 10 years to launch my own company, and I have to say I didn't have to wait that long. I should have done it earlier than that. And you are in an ecosystem and environment which is very supportive at the moment. In Barcelona, in Catalonia, Spain, there is the business incubator centers. That we have 8 centers in Spain. And for example, Valencia is rolling their next cohort for ISABIC startups in September, I think. I would say just jump. You can do it. If you have the idea, and we are very happy to support you, right? This space executive program is very easy to follow, and we give you with the right foundations for you to do that jump and to see if you're ready. You end up with that business case and with the business plan and the right pitch for the business incubator centers. So yeah, just go ahead. I would say just do it.
Yeah, I'll see what my situation is when I arrive to Ireland. But afterwards, I at some point I will make the jump. I'm sure, maybe sooner than later. I hope, but I will. Hopefully,
I will
that's the plan.